Today, we're very excited to have with us Jose Ralat, the author of the new book, American Tacos, and Russell Contreras, our very own New Mexico Associated Press reporter. These two will be talking about Jose's new book, which you can pick up on the Bookworks website. The website is bookworks.com without the O's. So it's BKWRKS.com. You don't know how many times I've said that very thing right there. Hundreds at least. BKWRKS.com. Bookworks without the O's. You can find Jose's book there. Your web purchases right now are helping us while our store doors are still closed. We are offering curbside service now if you're here in Albuquerque on Tuesday, Thursday, and Saturday from 10 to 2. But anyone across the country can buy books on our website and have those sent straight to your home, contact-free. So thank you all so much for joining us. If you would like to tell us in the chat where you're from, I know with some of these virtual events, folks are tuning in places. So we always love hearing what other cities or states you're from. And I don't know, I'd like to know what your favorite taco is, whether it's a type or a restaurant that you like to go to. I know here in New Mexico, we're blessed with a plethora of taquerias and wonderful Southwestern restaurants and taco stands and taco trucks. So I am super jazzed to talk about two of my favorites tonight, books and tacos, with Jose. Jose is the taco editor at Texas Monthly, an alternative magazine out of Austin. And he's the writer behind The Taco Trail, which is a blog and some social media pages that we encourage you to check out. He has also written for the Dallas Observer, Texas Highways, D Magazine, and some other national publications. On the New Mexico side of things, we have Russell Contreras, who is the reporter for the Associated Press in Albuquerque. If you've read any stories about, say, Chicano studies at UNM, or about immigration or politics coming out of the Southwest and out of Albuquerque, Russell probably wrote it. He is currently working on a book about President John F. Kennedy and his last night with the Mexican-American civil rights leaders, which sounds fascinating. And we will be pleased to promote that when that comes out.
Thank you.
Gentlemen, Russell, Jose, take it away. Tell us what you know about tacos.
Well, Jose, you and I spoke when the Associated Press wrote about your book the day it was released. And I'll ask you the same thing that I asked you then, is why the taco? Why a subject of this wonderful food made of wheat, flour, and meat and vegetables? What fascinated you, and why did you decide to take this particular cuisine on?
Who doesn't love tacos? I know that's a rhetorical question, but really it is something that I find interesting, and I didn't see anyone aside from a couple of writers in California approaching the taco like I was, from a journalistic, scholarly manner or point of view. And I wanted to dig in, get rid of the anecdotal, although that is important in the oral tradition. It's not always accurate. It's not always dependable. I wanted the facts, and I really enjoy eating them.
Yeah, who doesn't? I mean, you got a number of different dishes here, just the photos themselves that make one hungry. You start off by giving us your taco country guide, giving us kind of a rough history of the taco before you get into what you've encountered across the country. Real quickly, define for our audience here, what exactly is a taco, if you can?
Yes. there are two ways that I define the taco. There's the physical. It is a tortilla, whether that be corn flour, a filling, and a salsa. And then there's the definition that I embrace, and that is a representation of its time and place. Tacos vary all over Mexico, but they also vary all over this country. And both nations are interconnected in every way, including the taco, which was present here before the border was.
And you talked about this to that when the border after 1836 and the Mexican-American War treated Guadalupe Hidalgo, the taco almost went in two different directions, in the United States and in Mexico. The taco had to deal with limited resources and evolved into its own here in the United States. What happened? What happened in places like Texas and California when there was a border put up and the taco had to evolve?
Institutionalized racism would be the big one. The other one would be scarcity of previously available ingredients. New ingredients were available, and Mexicans and Mexican Americans have a way of perfecting a food using whatever is around, and that includes the taco in the U.S. And I've had better tacos here than I've had down in Mexico.
Oh wow,
I know that's a bold statement, but
it's a bold statement, right? You know,
but there are bad tacos everywhere, man.
No, I know. You and I talked about this too. When we look at the taco and where we're regionally from here, especially here for our folks in New Mexico, we tend to think that we have a lock on authenticity. Our tacos are the authentic. And then we go to California, we're like, this is not authentic. We go to Dallas, we're like, what is this? This is way not authentic. Why do we claim authenticity on a taco based on where we're from and our own experiences?
I think it's a matter of first, I think it's a coping mechanism. We have to protect what is ours, or what we think is ours, and the United States has done some horrible things to Mexico and its food. But authenticity is a problem that we love and to protect, because it allows us, it helps us seek an identity. And I think that we need to understand that just because something exists outside of our realm of existence doesn't delegitimize it. I often use the example of cookies. Someone's grandmother's chocolate chip cookies recipe would be different from their friend's grandmother's recipe. They're both great chocolate chip cookies. Who cares? Can you hear me? I can't hear you. Am I muted? You're muted. Oh. I can't unmute you, but but
There goes. That thing got me.
there. Okay.
Sorry about that. Based on that, you know what you said. The cookies is interesting. That it is something that we are involved with and embrace. But then again, the taco is not a living document, so to speak. It's not it's a living document. It's a living food that evolves based on time and place and new encounters. We're not encountering the taco. The taco is also encountering us. What has happened with the taco as new populations move into a certain area and try to influence this cuisine? What's going on?
It adapts naturally to what's available and who wants what, who is eating it. So in Los Angeles, for example, one of the classic examples is the Korean taco, where in the 80s and 90s, Korean immigrants were living next to Mexicans and Mexican Americans, and they naturally traded ingredients. Oh, that's a tortilla. Oh, that's cabbage. We put cabbage in our fish tacos. Why don't we try it on this? And they naturally innovated. And human beings are naturally curious and natural innovators. We adapt, and we adapt what's around us to suit our needs.
You also see this in Houston, as you write in the book, of Desi-Mex, people from India and Mexican Americans communities in Houston, where I'm from, and you start seeing some really interesting things with Indian food and Mexican food. What's going on in Houston that you've encountered?
Oh, it's wonderful, but it's not a tortilla as we know it. They use flaky pronta bread, which is almost like a phyllo. And it works just as well. It's a little messier, but you get a lot of the same spices. Cumin, for example, is one of them. That is very Texas, right? Yeah. And so you have these places popping up. Now, it should be noted that the current wave is the second wave. Places opened up several years ago, and almost all of them shut down. And what you have now has found a better footing because there's a bigger population.
And in the book, you also talk about Deli-Mex. There in New York, in historic Jewish neighborhoods, and the delis starting to experiment with tacos. What's going on there? And you have the idea of a kosher taco, which I encountered in New York and you've encountered. But Talk about that cuisine and what is that telling us about ourselves?
That kind of gets us back to our roots. Uh, there is no Latinidad without Jews. There is no coincidence that the Inquisition and the conquest of the Americas occurred almost simultaneously. And a lot of us have secret Jewish roots, that are lost to history. But what's happening in New York isn't new either. It happened in Los Angeles first in the 40s, in East LA, in Boyle Heights, where you had Jews and Chicanos living side by side. And as I write in the book, during breaks from filming Dragnet, the actors and the extras who were cops would go have kosher tacos. They would go have kosher burritos. And Johnny Carson cracked jokes about kosher tacos. And at some point, Jews moved out, and this history almost gets lost. But it pops up again. On the other side of the country, where there's another large Jewish population, and it should have happened a lot sooner. And personally, I don't think that any pastrami taco is complete without a rye tortilla. It should always be rye, man.
You got to.
Yeah.
You also mentioned in the book, as we've seen migration to the global south of the American South, places like Memphis, you're seeing really interesting syncretism. Talk a little bit about what is going on in places like Tennessee and Memphis, not too far where Martin Luther King was assassinated. There's some interesting cuisine evolution in places that is adopting African American cuisine, but also some stuff from Mexico. What's going on?
Well, I should note that this took a long time to develop, because there have always been Mexicans in the American South. The Santa Fe Trail almost went all the way there. Benito Juarez was exiled in New Orleans twice, I think. But in Memphis, you have the Dreeses, Jacob and Clarissa Drees. He is from Memphis. She is from Oaxaca. But her parents are from Juarez. And they met during culinary school in Austin, and eventually moved to Memphis, opened up a truck, and have carried on this tradition that was started back in the 90s at the Taqueria del Sol in Atlanta, of integrating Southern cuisine with Mexican cuisine, what I call Surmex. And I think that Fedriz's, their restaurant now, El Mero Taco, is probably the finest example
Sure.
of this. They do things like albondigas, meatballs in chipotles with collard greens. They do a fried chicken taco with buttermilk salsa, and using corn tortillas sourced from Memphis.
So now they're actually, instead of importing it, they've created their own supply there to provide, right?
Yeah.
You also have
Memphis
Cajun,
corn.
right? Memphis corn, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
And of course, you have Cajun tacos that you mentioned too. Also, another syncretized meal. And then you go to, I'm talking about Alto California. Another identity is there, even though one would think that the Mexican American population in California would be stagnant. That taco itself has evolved within the community. What's going on there?
I think what's going on is the inevitable, and what we'll see across the country. Alta California, the tacos is the only genre that cannot be removed from its place. It is defined by its geography, by the food that's caught there, of fish, I mean, from the food that's grown there. And it is a result of these classically trained chefs using the techniques and experience that they've accrued in fine dining with their childhood flavors.
Wow.
And that creates something fantastic, something that you literally can't find anywhere else.
If you're just joining us, I'm talking to Jose Ralat. His book, American Tacos, you can get it at bookworks.com. That's Bookworks without the O's. Please support your local independent bookstore, especially here in Albuquerque. It doesn't matter where you are. You can buy it from the website. We'll ship it directly to you, contact free. A couple more questions before we open it up. Jose, when you and I talked for the Associated Press story, one of the things we discussed is there's a backlash, of course, on social media against those who are almost want to cancel out anybody who does anything innovative with the taco. This is not authentic. This is not what it's meant to be. How dare you experiment, whether you put in Spam or hot dog weenies, so forth and so on. When you're abroad, say if you were going to Berlin or Tokyo, where you are seeing taco shops there, are you one to run away from that scene, or you want to go in there and says, let me try and see what's going on? What camp do you fall on? If you are in the middle of somewhere in Germany and you see tacos or taqueria and there are no people of Mexican descent, you go try it.
Yes, even if it's my job, even though it's my job, I would still go. I would still go, especially in London and Scandinavia, where you have people taking corn seriously, where they import heirloom Mexican corn, where they really dive into the history and to the flavor profiles and build a respect and build a rapport with the food and with the people. And I mentioned Scandinavia. In Norway, they have Taco Fridays, which is a family phenomenon. Every Friday night, families build their own taco bars using old El Paso style hard shells and whatever they have on hand. That is unique. That is wonderful. There's one academic paper written on it, and 2 journalistic articles. One of them is mine. But now you're also seeing Mexicans and Mexican Americans opening up their own shops in Paris, in Kyoto, for example. This week, West Avila, to my feature in the book, who owns Burrito Tacos, is opening up his own Mexican joint in Kyoto. I think that's wonderful. Yeah, why not?
Why not? I don't know if they know that Taco Fridays should be Taco Tuesdays, right? I think that's what.
Well, that's copyrighted. We can't say that.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, that's right. It was written in stone somewhere. Please, if you have any questions for Jose, please go ahead and send them through the chat. We're happy to. This is your chance to ask Jose anything about the taco or anything questions you have about the cuisine or suggestions and so forth. Jose, I'm going to ask you something that may get you in trouble with the folks here in New Mexico.
Okay.
It's a very political question. Here, they really have a very close to their food, especially when we ask if it's red or green. But the political question is this: is the burrito a taco?
Yes.
We have that out of the way. Did y'all hear that? The burrito is the taco. So let me ask you something. Why do we in Texas and California, for that matter, call them breakfast tacos? And here in New Mexico, we say breakfast burritos. What's going on here? What did we get wrong or what did we get right?
Oh man, breakfast burritos are a whole nother thing. Like that is, I mean, they're the tacos, but they're intimidating. I mean, they're huge. They're not like your regular burrito, which is, 8 inches long. I mean, that's small. That's an actual burrito, but in California, they're all big, and in southern Arizona, they're all big. They're slightly smaller there. What are we getting wrong? I don't know. I don't think anyone's getting anything wrong. We all have our personal preferences.
Sure.
And that's fine, but just as long as we all know that all burritos are tacos, but not all tacos are burritos.
Question for Jennifer here. She said, I always thought tacos and burritos were really meant for food innovation. What do you think that their creation itself has invited this innovation, almost put a flag and say, contribute to this? Do you agree with that?
I'm sorry. Yes, yes. They were meant for innovation because they depend on what's available around the people, what's grown there, what's sold there, and what people want to eat. Yeah.
And a question from our Bookworks is, what's the absolutely weirdest taco infusion you have seen in your research? This is something that I ask you, and I know you get this question a lot. What's the weirdest thing as we see this evolution? Of course, people are going to try anything. Is there something that has really just blown your mind when you're on this taco trail?
In the wrong way? I mean, I've made a lot of my own mistakes. I've often walked up to some taqueria and special ordered something just to see if I could, and it turns out horribly. Another time there was this lobster roll truck that had tacos, fish tacos, and I said, no, just give me the lobster, but then put fries on top of it. And it was awful. Soggy fries, tough lobster. It was just not good.
Lola brings up a good question. She wants to hear about the process of writing your book from the idea to publication. We should mention that before you wrote this book was coming out, you were named the taco editor, our Texas Monthly, and there was both a reaction of, oh, this is awesome, to what the hell is going on here? What is that process from that journey, from you becoming named the taco editor for Texas Monthly, and then the idea of this book of writing it? How did this evolve for you?
So I started writing about tacos and Mexican food more than 10 years ago. And I started the process of this book from its proposal to its publication 6 years ago. I pitched the position of taco editor 4 years ago when I was working on the 2015 Texas Monthly taco issue, which I co-edited. They already had a barbecue editor. And I said, come on, man. Barbecue is expensive. And it's a destination food, right? Tacos are everywhere. Mexican food is everywhere. We eat it without thinking about it. It's that integrated. Why not have a taco editor? But it took 4 years to pitch that one and get that one sold. But it was madness. It was absolutely madness. When it was announced, people freaked out. They thought, oh, well, this job listing was never posted. And I was like, well, no, it's because I pitched it. I created this position for me, and someone said yes.
Yes. I also remember when it came out that you weren't even Mexican, you were Puerto Rican who grew up on the Lower East Side.
I grew up all over,
Yeah.
but also in Brooklyn,
In Brooklyn.
Sunset Park. Yeah, where there's a large Mexican population now.
Sure. And which I live there too. I live there too
Yeah.
as well. Do
God,
you
I
think
miss that place.
this is a question from Lindsay Smith? Do you think at some point you'll do a book tour here? There's so much real concern about what's happening to
Yeah.
restaurants as this pandemic eases. Do you have any observations how your favorite taco ristos are doing and how they may fare? Will we see some effects on all this?
Yes.
You know?
To all the questions. Once they allow me to get on a plane or get on the road, I will go on a physical book tour. But that depends on science, not politics.
Mm.
And unfortunately, politics are playing a role in how restaurants are handling all of this right now. But most restaurants are using science
Mm.
as their marker. That's great. That means they can afford to wait.
Sure.
That means they can afford to do takeout. Taquerias and Mexican restaurants are generally smaller mom and pop operations that are able to adapt at a faster rate with lower costs. So they're kind of built for this.
Right.
Yeah.
And you mentioned Chicago in the book. Talk a lot about what goes on in the evolution of the taco in one of the oldest cities with the Mexican immigrant population here. It's got its own onda, as we say, in Chi-Town.
Yeah. It's got its own National Museum of Mexican art in Pilsen. But it is, I believe, the home to the second largest Mexican population in the country. It's got a long history, like you said, with Mexicans. Mexican culture, a lot of that has to do with cattle and the northern migration. But it's predominantly Michoacano. So you get a lot of carnitas, you get a lot of these Central Mexican dishes like birria, which is trending like crazy right now. So this is great for them. There are more modern taquerias that are growing there, and that have more than one location. One of which is Antique Taco, which is Mexican American owned. But for the most part, it's pretty old school.
And from Dr. Kim Pineda, he says, when it's safe to travel again, will you be coming to New Mexico as you originally planned and trying some things? And of course, I would add to that, red or green.
Christmas, man.
Christmas. That's what all the politicians say here. They don't want to do it. Every time I ask a politician, they say that, red or green, especially when they're in a primary. But no, what are your places here in New Mexico that you like that's gotten to your soul?
I really like Parasol, which has multiple locations, but their crispy chicken taco is right on, man. It is spot on. Old school fried taco. Uh, there's a place in Santa Fe that is a truck or a trailer that I really like. Uh, my family's got a cabin in Cloudcroft that my wife's grandfather built in the 60s, and we're actually going to be heading there later in June because we're going crazy here. We've been in this house for 2.5 months, almost 3 months, and we're just going to drive there, drive back, and we eat down in Alamogordo. I don't know if we're going to be doing a lot of that, but we are mainly going just to get out for a while, but I can't wait to just go to New Mexico and hang out and see folks I know, get some beers with them, or whatever, just be there, because it's a beautiful place, and one day I'd like to go to the Chili Pepper Institute.
And Margie had a really interesting question. If she has a sweet tooth, is there any movement in desert tacos that you see, or basically dessert tacos?
Yes. Now, there are two types. There's the waffle taco shell. That doesn't technically count, but it's gained such popularity so quickly that it's sort of ramrodded its way into being a taco, and that's filled with ice cream. And then there are dessert tacos that are made out of tortillas that are mixed with something, like a s'mores taco made with a corn tortilla that's had abuelita powder mixed into it. And in California, there's the flan taco. Now, I have often said eventually everything ends up in a taco, but I did not consider flan. It just didn't occur to me that someone would try that, and it was amazing. I had it 3 times in a row. I just kept going back.
And as we hear, people are, if you get a chance, check the chat. There are people suggesting some great places to visit. Urban Taqueria is owned by an Indian Mexican family here in Albuquerque. There's a place in Raton that is a gas station off 25. They're very good. We want to thank Jose for joining us. We want to thank you all also for joining us here. Don't forget that you can get American Tacos at bookworks.com. That's bookworks.com without the O's. We'll send it directly to you, contact free. And if you want a signed copy, please contact Bookworks too, and we can arrange that for you. Last question before you go, Jose. I'm in Maine. At one point, going on a story, I stopped as I was getting gas, drive through rural Maine, very north, very close to Canada. I see a sign that says Moose Tacos.
And you got some.
I did not, because I was on deadline. But if you were me, if you were my companion, would you have made me stop, and would you have tried that?
Yes, and yes, absolutely. Because That sounds so Maine.
It does. It sounds very Maine. I did not try it, and I still regret it today. The person I was with was a Maine correspondent, and he said absolutely not, that he couldn't do it. But I think he was scared, and it was almost 10 years before your book came out. So, thank you, Jose. We are going to be trying tacos. It is dinner time. The governor here in New Mexico announced that restaurants will be opening up soon at 50% capacity on patios. So please, if you get to be safe, wear a mask, wear gloves. And if you have to go out, because many of us are going insane, go ahead and try some of our tacos here in Albuquerque. Thank you, Jose. Thank you to Bookworks for putting this together.
Yes.
Again, go to bookworks.com without the O's to order your book, Amanda.
Thank you so much, Russell, for joining us and interviewing Jose. It was wonderful to hear about your taco adventures. I'm sure there will be more to come, and we wish you all some wonderful taco adventures this summer as well. Good night, everyone.
Thank you.
Night.
Bye.
Good luck with the book, Jose.
What? Yeah. Oh, here. And follow me on Instagram and Twitter and Facebook, Taco Trail.
Yes, taco.
At Taco Trails. At Taco Trails on Twitter. Thank you for joining us, guys.
Yes.
Happy taco
Thank
trails,
you.
everyone. Good night.
Yes. Bye. Good night.